people that work for the state and serve with people in the state of Georgia. All we ask that you bless this proceeding, this meeting, and lift this up in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much.
Roll call.
Roll.
Okay, I'll do the roll call by congressional district. District 1, Ms. Purcell.
Present.
2, Ms. Williams. 3, Mr. McIntyre.
Present.
4, Mr. Brown.
Present.
5, Ms. Key. 6, Mr. Bowen.
Present.
7, Mr. Thompson.
Present.
8, Mr. Golden.
Present.
9, Ms. Dunn. 10, Mr. Boswell. 11, Mr. Lewis.
Here.
12, Mr. Morris.
Here.
13, Ms. Lemon. And 14, Mr. Gravely.
Thank you all very much. The approval of minutes from the May board meeting.
I make a motion that we approve those minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, discussion. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The minutes approved. Okay. Now we have Albert Shelby, Director of Program Delivery, give a report on the periods of June 11.
Well, good morning, Chairman Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner, members of the board. I'm here to present the projects the department is proposing to advertise for the July 2023 letting. Before we present July, here are the FY 2023 results. We have let a total of 269 projects in fiscal year 2023. This chart shows the number of projects by improvement type. The value of these 269 projects is approximately $1.802 billion through the May 2023 awards, with 262 GDOT let projects worth approximately $1.738 billion and 7 local let projects worth $63.6 million. This chart shows the dollar amount distribution by improvement type, with maintenance, bridge, and road projects making up the bulk of these types. Here are the results of the May 2023 letting. Of the 24 GDOT let contracts presented to the board, 22 were awarded and 2 were rejected. Now I'm going to discuss the projects in the July 2023 letting. We have a total of 53 projects and all are GDOT let. The next 5 slides list these 53 projects arranged by congressional district. So as you can see with this slide, we are letting a variety of projects throughout the state to address bridge, capacity, enhancement, maintenance, and safety issues. As you heard in yesterday's presentation, GDOT is safety focused. We propose to let a variety of safety projects, including roundabouts, intersection improvements, guardrail, pedestrian crossing, signing, and pavement markings. These projects are great examples of our continued commitment to providing a safe traveling experience for motorists and pedestrians. This first highlighted project is a roundabout located at the intersection of Rainier Road and Spring Grove Road. This project will consist of replacing the stop-controlled intersection with a single-lane roundabout. This project will improve safety and provide continuous flow at this intersection. This project is identified as eligible for a high-risk rural roads program. This next project will resurface State Route 1 and State Route 520 from the Muskogee County line to west of the Stewart County line for a length of 16.13 miles. This section was last repaved in 2006, 17 years ago. This next project will replace the 2 structurally deficient bridges on State Route 34 over the Chattahoochee River tributary and over Lumpkin Creek. The existing bridges were constructed in 1936, 87 years ago. And here's a ground view of the bridge over the Chattahoochee River tributary that's going to be replaced. And here's a ground view of the bridge over Lumpkin Creek. This next project will replace the structurally deficient bridge on State Route 7 US 41 over Cedar Creek. The existing bridge was constructed in 1955, 68 years ago. And here's a ground view of that bridge to be replaced. This next project will construct a half-diamond interchange at McGinnis Ferry Road. The McGinnis Ferry Road will also be widened on both sides approaching the bridge from Autumn Brook Way to south of Old Peachtree Road. The existing bridge along McGinnis Ferry will remain in place. A 5-foot sidewalk and a 10-foot asphalt shared use path will also be constructed as part of the project. This next project will replace the structurally deficient bridge on Old Thompson Mill Road over Little Mulberry River. The existing bridge was constructed in 1966, 57 years ago. Here's a ground view of that bridge to be replaced. The final highlighted project will replace the structurally deficient bridge on Coastline Road over the CSX railroad tracks. The existing bridge was constructed in 1940, 83 years ago. Here's a ground view of that bridge to be replaced. Right. And here's another view of that bridge crossing. So I think it'll be a little bit of an upgrade.
Yeah.
So we have 53 projects for the July 2023 letting, and all are GDOT let. This chart shows the distribution by improvement type. The estimate of the projects in the July 2023 letting is approximately $278.9 million. This chart shows the dollar amount distribution by improvement type. I now ask for your consideration for approval of the proposed projects presented for the July 2023 letting.
Motion. A motion second in discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
before
yes, sir.
Albert gets away?
Sure.
You don't have to pull this back up or anything, but I noticed, on your numbers, for 23, roughly 9% of our budget was for safety improvements. And I'm assuming that traffic signals are included in that program, safety improvements, or am I?
Any project that is a letting is included in that number.
Okay.
It's like, it doesn't include, let's say, quick response projects, things like that, that we don't go through a letting process.
Well, my question is, because I'm sure all of us have had to deal with this in our districts when people or groups request traffic signals. What is the difference in criteria that is considered between a roundabout versus an improved or new traffic signal?
So it's more than just an apples-to-apples comparison, right? Sometimes it's based on, number one, signal criteria. You got 8 warrants that you got to meet, and you got to meet at least a certain percentage of those. But some cases, signals just don't work in certain areas. And hence we put roundabouts in if there's significant crash data that we have that a signal just may not address.
So roundabouts do not require a warrant that you mentioned?
Not in the same way.
Okay.
We do the analysis. Go ahead, Nick.
Matt, add something. So for every intersection improvement, we do an ICE analysis, an intersection control evaluation, and we evaluate all types of control: signal, roundabout, R-cut, stop control. And so we have a process to evaluate and look at the benefits of each of those and the cost of each of those and what works for each location. And that's how we determine. But we have a whole separate fund code set up for a lump sum for signal improvements. So signals are not always safety. Signals can be operational, or it could be just an upgrade for a signal. Safety, we have a lump sum of federal funds that is specific for safety. They go through an evaluation and they have to meet certain benefit cost ratio requirements. Those are what we consider our safety projects. But, you know, all projects improve safety in a way, but those specific safety funded projects are what we call safety in these categories.
Just one final thought on that, and thank you for that. If it would be very helpful to me if I could get a brief explanation of that, because in my area, I get that request an awful lot. And it would be very helpful to have a brief explanation like that to distinguish the differences and the
An
justification.
explanation of the ICE process?
Yeah, yeah.
Glad to do
Mhm,
that.
all that. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank,
You'd like that too? Okay. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Any other?
Any more questions? Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Malcolm, very,
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board, Commissioner. I'm pleased to come before you this morning to present the proposed revisions to the construction work program. I don't have any for action for you this month. As you recall, I'll bring forward the proposed revisions for review in the first month, and then they come back in the next month for proposed action from the committee. So all of the ones before you this morning are for review. There are 15 projects on the board revision list. All of them are additions to the program. All of them are bridge replacement projects in congressional districts 2, 3, 8, 11, and 14.
okay.
So I'll be happy to take any questions. Otherwise, these will come back to you next month for consideration.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. Commissioner?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board. It's a pleasure to be back this month. As I was away last month, Meg and I were attending AASHTO. Spring conference was held in Seattle, so I appreciate Brad Saxon pinch hitting for me, and good to be back with you. And since Brad covered last month, he's off today, so I guess that's how it works. But glad to be with you. As always, let me start with our state fund collections for last month, being May. Collections totaled $201.55 million. The breakdown on that was $181 million of that was excise fees, or excise, and then $20.2 million was roughly the transportation fees that go along with that. So, again, that's a pretty robust month as we continue to see traffic being busy this time of year. That results in some positive revenue numbers. Let me stay on revenue before we move into employment, though, and just talk a little bit about some things that were in the news just a few weeks ago. You heard about the debt ceiling plan, or the debt ceiling was a big issue in the news, and it's amazing how the news just moves forward. But a few weeks ago, that was obviously a concern nationally at many levels. Well, it had a transportation nexus in that debt ceiling plan, which ultimately was called the Fiscal Responsibility Act that the president signed. The relationship was in the debt ceiling plan, there was a provision that would basically pull back any unobligated Corona Response Relief and Supplemental Appropriations Act that we affectionately call CRRSA for short. And so that would be called back. And the provisions of that CRSSA originally was that those federal funds had to be obligated by September of 2024. And so with that being said, let me just give you a little background on what that meant to Georgia. Originally, when those dollars were appropriated several years ago, that meant about $320 million coming to GDOT for transportation purposes. And when I say to GDOT, all of through federal highway to GDOT, and part of that goes to the metropolitan planning organizations as well. And so the breakdown of that $320 million, when you looked at how much Georgia, between Georgia DOT and the MPOs, had yet to obligate, was about right at $80 million. And so, like everyone around the nation, is like, you don't want to lose money, right? If you've got some money, you want to use it. So, and we certainly at GDOT had plans to encumber the rest of that money, of which our share was roughly $42 million. and the balance of $38 million was around the MPOs, with the largest share being here at the Atlanta Regional MPO, Atlanta Regional Commission. So, with that being said, there was a lot of effort by us at DOT with our MPOs and with partnership with Federal Highway to work to obligate that roughly $80 million. And so I'm super excited to say that we did it. And it took a lot of effort to make that happen. And when I say a lot of effort, this would go in effect when the president signed the bill. And if you guys remember the timeline of that, they were trying to get it done very quickly, and it moved through Congress very quickly, and the president signed it really late, I think on a Friday night, if I recall correctly. And so a lot of work. I just want to, again, take hats off to our team, especially our financial management team, which has to work through the process to interact with Federal Highway. I want to certainly thank Sabrina David, our division administrator, for her team's effort and her effort of saying, let's make this happen. And so we were able to pull that down. Now, in a few years, if the nation is $80 million short, we will know what happened. It was us. But I think we're okay. But we're very glad to get those dollars obligated moving forward on many projects that people had planned to do. We were just able to get the money obligated up front so those projects can continue to go ahead, or helping with fund some existing projects with overruns and costs that you've seen in, recently. So very, very great news there. So very excited about that. All right, let me transition into the employment data. As we closed out last month, 3,807 full-time employees. We netted one new employee. We did good. We got net one. We hired 51 employees and we had 50 separate. And so the great work of HR and all the staff here of trying to get people filled, we netted one. So we've got some work to do. And on that note, I know last month you talked about heroes, and we talked about what we're doing to adjust and then to bring people back in. And I just want to give you a little bit of good news. We had our second Indeed job fair, and had a tremendous outpouring of that. Nearly 200 people expressed interest. In fact, we offered 115 contingent job offers. And so we're working through that process now. After the 115 contingent, we had 95 that said, we're really, yes, I'd like to move forward. And we're working through the background checks and drug testing and all the things that you have to do to onboard people. So that's really good news. Very, very excited if we can have a class of, usually when you see those getting through the screening and background checks and drug testing, you call more people out, they fall out. But even at that number, that's a good positive step to onboard and start the training process such that HERO goes back the way we all want it to be. So very good news there. So hopefully next month we won't report net one, we're going to report net a lot. So very excited about that. All right, next is our professional services procurement update. You got a total download yesterday from Treasurer Young about the great work the procurement office does and all the things they do. And for last month, it totaled 175 contracts executed, valued at $32 million. And as he showed on his slide, we're about 1,524 professional services contracts year to date, totaled $672.3 million. So again, all the upfront work it takes to deliver projects such that you get to vote on them here to go to bid. So a lot of work, and certainly appreciate it. Treasury's presentation yesterday, very, very informative and very insightful. Now let me move and transition into just a few projects that we opened last month to call your attention to, and we'll start in Congressional District 2 down in Talbot County. That's GDOT District 3, a capital bridge replacement project. Just a little bit of roadway work, but to replace the bridge and the approaches on US 80, which is State Route 22, over South Fort Eupatoy, thank you, Creek. And that's just north of Geneva, though. I know where it is. And so there's the bridge that was replaced. The contractor was Williams Contracting Company, No relation, I don't believe. Not building bridges on the side, are you? Okay. All right, so no relation there, but Williams Contracting Company did a great job, opened it up for traffic, May 22nd. It represents a $2.8 million capital investment in that bridge replacement on, State Route 22 US 80, and there's a shot of it as well. That replaced a bridge that was originally built in 1962. We'll move into Congressional District, we'll stay in Congressional District 2 and Bibb County and GDOT District 3 again, and talk about a safety operational project right along Mr. Lewis's thoughts there of roundabout. So here's a roundabout project for safety and operations that was built on State Route 22 at Fulton Mill Road. The contractor was Reeves Construction Contractor. It opened on May 17th to traffic. Represents a $4.6 million operational investment at that location. Now we'll move in and split two congressional districts, being 6 and 9, up on the Hall-Dawson County line, and another capital bridge replacement project. This was construction of the bridge and approaches on State Route 136 over the Chestatee River, which also is Lake Lanier at that point. And of course, that's replacing the original bridge that was built before the lake backed up in 1956. And so the contractor on this project was Scott Bridge Company. It represents a $12.2 million investment, capital bridge investment, and it opened ahead of schedule. The construction completion was actually the end of July, so they're well almost 2 months ahead. So good job there. And I drove across that just last weekend. Beautiful bridge and a beautiful location. Now let's move into Congressional District 10 in Madison County. This has nothing to do with that 1990s novel, The Bridges of Madison County, or the movie, but it's a capital bridge replacement program. I'm here all week, by the way. It replaced a bridge that was built in 1956, and it's the approaches on 281 over the Broad River. Contractor was E.R. Snell. It opened to traffic on May 12th. Represents a $5.6 million capital bridge investment. And again, it was ahead of schedule as well. So we like that when that happens. So that's the bridges and the projects that had opened, just a few of them since last time we were together, and always good to see the progress of the fruition of all the hard work we talked about at the meetings yesterday and your efforts to approve lettings. It's good to see the final result. All right, let me transition now into some updates and achievements and recognitions that I wanted to highlight. And we'll start with our Office of Performance Management and Research. This research arm of that office uses federal funds to work with universities and colleges on research topics that we come up with, that we say, this is something that we need to investigate, we'd like to have more information about this, or especially future leaning or looking forward, what kind of research can help us do our jobs better. And so this is an exciting announcement that one of our research projects won the High Value Research Award for AASHTO Region 2, of which that's basically the Southeast. And the project was titled Extended Field Testing and Enhancement for Portable Pedestrian and Cycle Detection Systems. They always have a long title. So it's basically how do you count pedestrians and bicyclists in a very efficient fashion. And you heard yesterday of Kelly Roberts in the safety presentation talking about how important it is to get those counts and understand where cyclists and pedestrians are. That's what she called vulnerable road users. So this is, again, research to help be able to be more effective and more efficient in getting those traffic counts. So this really helps the safety analysis work that she talked about in the Highway Safety Improvement Program that she mentioned. So this idea originated from the Office of Traffic Operations, and in concert with Georgia Tech's Dr. Colin Usher and Dr. Wayne Dalloway, were the principal investigators. The high-value research projects are nominated by state DOTs and submitted to the AASHTO Special Committee on Research and Innovation, and ultimately to the AASHTO Research Advisory Committee. So it's the group of our peers nationally basically review and then vote on these. So the Research Advisory Committee that oversees that submission and works with the DOTs for the 4 AASHTO regions select the top 4 research projects in each of the regions. So you get to the Sweet 16, right? Everybody wants to get to the Sweet 16. In sports, same in research. And so congratulations to all those in the GDOT offices, and maybe we'll see if we do better we win the championship. We'll see how it goes through the rest of that. But certainly a high honor, and certainly glad, and especially a thanks to our Office of OPMR, as we call it, for them making that happen. Well, you know, as I talk to you about staff and employees, we know how critical training is in investing in our employees for the great jobs they do, but we have to continue to invest in our employees and provide them the critical training they need. So I wanted to take just a moment to talk about some of that equipment training that we do often, and really is part of how we market to draw new employees in. Is you don't have to have the skill set. Come in. We will train you. We will give you equipment training, commercial driver's license training, and get you the experience that you need to be proficient in doing the work. And I think that's one of our advantages that we have, and sort of is a good part now of trying to get people recruited in to fill our vacancies. And so part of that is highlighting those skill sets of what people learn to do in equipment operations. So we basically conduct a statewide district operations skills training exercise and friendly competition among districts. You may not know this, but the districts, each of the districts, GDOT districts that you represent, are slightly competitive, just slightly. And that's a good thing. So it's always good to pull them together. GDOT's District 4 down in Tifton office hosted the rodeo, as we call it, and the participants from all 7 districts showed off their training in some friendly competition in 6 competitive categories. And we're very excited that this year GDOT District 1 took the overall championship, and all the team members who participated are worthy. And all those who didn't even make it to the competition, though, do a great job on it every day in equipment operations, and especially focused on safety. So here's a list. I won't read them to you, but you can see the different categories, the 6 categories there. And I can tell you, they will not let me participate. I am not qualified. So, yes, but this is a great thing for, again, to highlight and continue to focus on training and safety. There's a lot of training at this and focus on safety first and foremost, beside the competition itself. So congratulations to all the winners, and it's been a while since District 1's been there. Might have been since some guy named Russell was the district engineer there. So, but I'm glad they're back there. I love all the districts. All right. So again, and also just a quick shout out for our state maintenance office who facilitates this, pulls this together. Each district has their maintenance offices, but the state maintenance office is the convener of this, and our safety office obviously is a very big part of this participation as well. All right, so we're going to move from heavy equipment to a little bit maybe lighter than air sometime, and talk about Advanced Air Mobility Summit that we hosted in partnership with Georgia Tech and the Georgia Department of Economic Development. I believe that was last week, as I recall. And certainly want to thank Dr. Clement Solomon, our Division Director of Intermodal, for taking the lead, and he and his team for working on this from our point of view. And let me just talk about, we have to have an acronyms, Advanced Air Mobility Summit, AAM. So when I say AAM's, Advanced Air Mobility. And so bear with me. So this AAM Summit was really designed with innovation, how to integrate AAM into Georgia's transportation future. So this emerging technology, we really want to be on the cusp, working with the private sector, industry, and academia of how is it that we're a leader nationally in advanced air mobility. And so it's really great that we partnered again. Let me put this in perspective. Georgia Tech Research Institution, Economic Development, who brings jobs to Georgia, and us of charting out our future for advanced air mobility. And it really was a big, diverse group of stakeholders, including airports, Hartsfield-Jackson International, Delta. You had people in this space, many companies that are in this space across the nation showed up. And so also FAA, got to keep them inside as well. And look, what advanced air mobility means to FAA is it's really an umbrella term that sort of captures a lot of things that are really aircraft that are referred to often as vertical takeoff and landing, as you can see the photo in the middle. And I'll show you a video in a minute, but this technology is transforming quickly to alternative fuels as well, electric vertical takeoff and landing type procedures, as well as future things. Think of air taxis as what this solution may be in the future. And basically, AAM is an air transportation system that can move people or cargo locally, regional, between sort of urban locations and the like. And air taxis, traditionally, if you think about an air taxi today, is a helicopter. Well, helicopters are loud, it's a little bit difficult, those tricky to operate and the like, and so it's been a high entry to cost, or high cost entry, if you will. So this technology is changing rapidly, and I'm gonna show you this video because it does a better job than I can what this really means. Much better than I can explain. So we have one on the roof. I'll be flying this afternoon for anybody that wants a ride. Any takers? Not quite yet. No, Jeff's an early adopter. Kathy's an early adopter. Okay. We do have some parachutes for you and a big waiver. But folks, this technology is here. It's amazing. It's amazing to see, and I'm proud for our division of intermodal. Also, I want to mention Janine Miller and the planning divisions engaged in this discussion as well. That was Supernal, video by Supernal, but I do want to remind you that Archer Aviation, that makes these kind of AAMs, are here in Georgia, in Covington. In fact, setting up at the airport there. So Georgia's we already have AAM manufacturer here in Georgia, and others to come, I assure you. So Clement and his team's working to develop basically a blueprint for what that future looks like. What does air taxis look like in our future? And so a lot to be done in the study, basically a SWOT analysis, a ConOps plan, and an action plan. So how do we move forward? How do we engage with the businesses that want to work and locate in Georgia? And how do we drive this technology forward? So he's going to be working on that in the collective team at Georgia Tech and Economic Development through the fall of this year. So we'll follow back up on what that final sort of future looks like and book you a ride just as soon as we can. So really good stuff. All right, let me step back. You heard from Meg Perkle yesterday with an update on some of our P3 projects, State Route 400 Express Lane project being one of those. I remind the board that our vision is building a connected system of express lanes here in Metro Atlanta for our multimodal future. And part of that multimodal future certainly becomes to life on the 285. And just wanted to provide an update that you may remember that there was a joint MOU between MARTA, the ATL, GDOT, Fulton County, DeKalb County, Cobb County, and Gwinnett County. A pretty historic MOU that was assigned to focus on the transit aspect of providing what we affectionately call express lane transit or high capacity transit along the 285 corridor inside the future express lanes. And so this MOU basically was a stepping forward. That was in May of last year, in fact, that's when that was went forward, where everybody was to do the upfront work for what does this express lane transit future look like. And so MARTA is basically taking the lead and has hired a consultant. The MARTA board approved the contract, the ATL board approved the contract, so it is moving forward to do the work necessary that can be integrated and shared through our procurement process once we start the 285 procurement process, such that the developers and everybody engaged in that can understand and that we've got the best plans we can. So those things are going to be working sort of commensurately together as we start advancing 285 later as this work moves forward. So it's truly a historic thing, and we look forward to this information, partnering with, obviously, MARTA and the ATL and all the partners and stakeholders as this work comes forward, such that we have the best information for integration into our procurement process. So just wanted to highlight that one thing. And also, we'll move into, we've covered, we're going to have, I do have some maritime discussion. I'm glad we've covered aviation. Now we'll talk about rail. Just last week, Norfolk Southern hosted an operational awareness and response training program out at East Point. CEO Alan Shaw is on the picture to the right next to the governor. Norfolk Southern, as you know, has had some derailments especially of note that garnered national news. I'm very excited and proud that they are advancing training to first responders so that they know how to respond should that happen. And I remind you that rail derailments on volume is very, very, very low. Obviously, the East Palestine got a big, obviously a big concern there. But they are being aggressive. Norfolk Southern's being aggressive in training first responders on how to respond, and so that you don't have to figure it out. Very proud that they invited us as well, and Emily Fish, from the State Maintenance Office, who handles emergency operations. We were part of that to understand and have the connectivity if something should go wrong, that you're not trying to figure out who to call. You know who to call, you know how to respond, and especially our first responders. So just wanted to give a shout out there for NS and including so many people, and the governor was there as well to again support that. So obviously around railroad, it's always safety, safety, safety. So I just wanted to provide you an update too that there was a federal railroad crossing elimination grant program. In fact, just the administration, the FRA that is, announced last week $570 million in grant funding to 63 projects across 32 states. You all have rail crossings in your districts, and you probably have a few concerns and a few comments about crossings. And so it's really good to see that this program has come forward again as a grant program. It's the first time this has been done as a grant program, and the focus is really to help communities eliminate those points where railroad tracks intersects with roads and have blocked vehicle and pedestrian traffic and collisions as well. So Georgia received $3.2 million in grant funding for working in crossings, working with Chatham County, DeKalb County, and Gwinnett County, all on applications that they had put forward. So this money will flow through FRA, and will help administer these dollars with Chatham, DeKalb, and Gwinnett. So looking forward to some positive outcome there. All right, we'll get to surface transportation. When I was before you in April, I was very excited, and I was all wound up about it, that we opened our first turbine interchange on I-16 and I-95, the first of two turbines there. The rendering is on the right, the actual is on the left, and really a high-functioning way to move traffic safely, which carries I-95 southbound traffic to I-16 eastbound. We opened that up overnight on June 2nd. The reason it didn't make the first of the show, the project's not done. But this is, again, another major milestone to see how we're improving traffic even when it's still under construction, as you can see on the left. They certainly will improve traffic flow in the heavy freight flow in and out of the Port of Savannah That's why these were designed that way as well, getting rid of those really tight clover ramps where trucks tend to turn over into much bigger, flatter curves, if you will, to move traffic there at I-16 and I-95. And let me stay on the coast for a minute. And this is breaking news today. So unfortunately, we had to close the Houlihan Bridge, which is right there above Savannah and just south of I-95. It's one of the only 3 river crossings in that area, in that immediate area, due to structural issues that was identified actually from our bridge construction. We have a project, a design-build project that's actually under construction now to replace that bridge and another bridge in that area. And so finding some concerns of structural integrity, we had our bridge engineers go out and do inspections. We also had our divers. I'll remind you that we have, part of our bridge inspection team have underwater divers to do what's below the water. And it's not quite like diving in the Caribbean, by the way, when you're diving in that kind of water. It's a little bit different. But the replacements were basically a $32 million project for the Houlihan Bridge, the Middle River Bridge as well. And so the breaking news was we thought that we were going to have to keep this closed for a while and do some major structural repairs on a very old bridge while we're building a new bridge, but we were able to determine structurally safe that we could open one lane of traffic with traffic signals on each end and get traffic flowing back and not have to do a very long procedure to repair part of the bridge. The other part of it is very safe, and we've made sure that that was the case. And it opened last evening, so that was breaking news. Ann probably knew that, but it was good news to get that back open. It certainly was a very long detour. In fact, 25 miles or more to detour around this location. Like I said, you only have 2 choices: I-95 or 17 being the Talmadge Cable Stay Bridge down there. So glad to get that back open. Appreciate everybody's thought about that. And we'll stay on the coast because guess what? It's hurricane season. Officially June 1st. Knock on all kind of wood, and it goes all the way through November 30th. So we prepare in advance. As we talked about training for equipment operators, well, we do training for preparing for hurricane seasons, and so getting ready for that. We had an agency-wide meeting on June 1st to coordinate with offices and divisions. From the emergency operations standpoint, let me just sort of tell you how we're positioned to be ready. We have 23 large strike teams available to deploy statewide before, during, and after the storm. We also have 23 emergency trailers stocked up with chainsaws and emergency equipment, so we have these trailers ready to go. I mean, you don't have to worry about loading them up and being ready. They are ready to go when necessary. Also, we have a lot of generators that we need for signals and intersections. When the power goes out, traffic signals go out. So we put generators, some of them have a little bit of battery, but mostly you got to put those on generators. And so, anyway, just wanted you to know that we're preparing. We always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And so that's what we're doing. And I appreciate the districts and the state maintenance office and everybody's focus on being ready. And so some of the additional emergency ops, we'll continue to do tabletop exercises with the Traffic Management Center, because when this happens, our Traffic Command Center becomes our operations center. And so we actually base out of that location at our Traffic Management Centers. Also, we've got some meetings with Florida and South Carolina planned, and I can tell you when those things happen, we're in constant communication with our adjoining states to know what they're doing and how we're working together, especially relates to contraflow of freeways like I-16, where we reverse traffic and bring everybody out of Savannah in that area, and also just working with our states, and of course always working with GEMA, Homeland Security, and the Georgia State Patrol, DNR, and all our sister agencies. That is a whole of government approach when these kind of hurricanes come through. So Severe weather is often unpredictable, as we know from yesterday and overnight. At one point, we had, I think, 6 to 8 roads closed overnight due to trees down, a little bit of flooding down in the Albany area. I haven't got a report this morning. I'm assuming that those things are back open. And so, again, you just never know when severe weather happens, but we're going to be prepared for it. So, Mr. Chairman, that was a very lengthy report. I was catching up from missing last month, I suppose, but glad to entertain any questions or comments.
Yes, Ms. Lemon?
Also, thank you. It's broke. How do we coordinate with local governments in preparation for hurricanes, especially in like the 75 corridor coming up from Savannah?
Sure.
Do we have meetings with them? Do we have coordination with them? How do we do that?
Yeah, so the we part of that is actually handled by GEMA, Homeland Security, and their EMA directors do the same thing. So they do the coordination, and I'll remind you all is if you get calls during storms, whether it's tornadoes or just storms, EMA, your local EMA connection to GEMA is the appropriate way to communicate, because we have to funnel all that communications, but they take the lead in that coordination.
Okay.
We're just sort of a team player from that point of view.
Any further, any more questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, Dennis?
Yes, I will give the Program Delivery Committee report from yesterday. The Program Delivery Committee convened on June 14, 2023 at 1:33 p.m. Board members present included Vice Chairman Dennis McIntyre, Ann Purcell, Greg Morris, Kathy Williams, Tim Golden, Robert Brown, Stacy Key, Rudy Bowen, Kurt Thompson, Jeff Lewis, Dana Lemon, and Micah Gravely. First order of business, Kevin York, State Right-of-Way Administrator, presented the Office of Right-of-Way Responsibilities. He highlighted the joint coordination between the department and the Federal Highway Administration, the importance of keeping the department eligible for federal funds. He summarized acquisitions totals for fiscal year 21, 22, and 23, provided an overview on how parcels are acquired by the department, provided an overview of surplus properties, focused on GDOT staff and the great work done by the right-of-way staff at both the general office and each district office across the state. No actions were taken during the committee. The meeting adjourned at 2:10 p.m. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Stacy?
Thank you. The Administrative Committee convened on June 14th, 2023 at 2:11 p.m. Board members present included Ann Purcell, Greg Morris, Mike, Robert Brown, Kathy Williams, Dennis McIntyre, Rudy Bowen, Kurt Thompson, Tim Golden, Emily Dunn, Jeff Lewis, Dana Lemon, and myself, Chairman Stacy Key. First order of business, Treasurer Young, Chief Procurement Officer, reviewed the trends in the work done by the Office of Procurement over the last few years. He also discussed the workload over the course of 2023. Committee actions, no actions were taken during this committee meeting. The meeting adjourned at 2:35 p.m. This concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Rudy?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The P3 Committee convened on June 14th, 2023 at 2:36 p.m. Board members present included Chairman Rudy Bowen, Stacy Key, Jeff Lewis, Emily Dunn, Robert Brown, Ann Purcell, Kathy Williams, Dennis McIntyre, Kurt Thompson, Tim Golden, Greg Morris, Dana Lemon, and Michael Gravely. First order of business, Meg Perkle, Chief Engineer, provided an update on the procurement for the Georgia 400 Express lanes and the I-285 and I-20 West interchange. One of the original shortlisted teams has withdrawn from consideration. Two strong teams remain for a competitive procurement. The Georgia 400 Express lane procurement schedule is being extended the second quarter of 2024 to allow for further consideration of alternative technical concepts presented by proposers. Ms. Perkle also provided an update on the I-285, I-20 West Interchange project. A short list of 2 qualified development teams was announced on May the 23rd, 2023. The I-285, I-20 West Interchange procurement schedule will be completed in the second quarter of 2024. No actions were taken during this committee meeting. The meeting adjourned at 2:49 p.m. This concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next minute is Tim Meyer.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Strategic Planning Committee met yesterday, June 14th. We convened at 2:50 p.m. Board members present were myself, Jeff Lewis, Ann Purcell, Kurt Thompson, Dennis McIntyre, Robert Brown, Kathy Williams, Stacy Key, Rudy Bowen, Emily Dunn, Greg Morris, Dana Lemon, and Micah Gravely. The first order of business was Hob T. Castor, the Assistant State Transportation Planning Administrator, presented the 2020-2050 Georgia Statewide Travel Demand Model, known as the GSTDM. He provided an introduction of the updated 2020-2050 GSTDM, its purpose, and its applications to provide planning analysis and studies. He highlighted what the GSTDM can and cannot provide and examples of statewide plans and studies using the GSTDM. The committee there were no actions taken during this committee meeting. The meeting adjourned at 3:06 p.m. and that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Next committee, Ann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee of the Whole convened on June the 14th at 3:07 p.m. Board members present included Chairman Brown, Purcell, Williams, McIntyre, Key, Thompson, Golden, Dunn, Morris, Lemon, and Gravely. The first order of business, Kelly Roberts, our State Safety Program Manager, gave her safety report update. She discussed the safety trends in Georgia, the Highway Safety Improvement Program, and the Strategic Highway Safety Program. She showed crash trends in Georgia and the safety performance targets of GDOT. The department continues to do educational outreach on safety, partnering with the Lucy 43 Foundation for the Safe Driving Summit, and collaborating with the communications to promote safety on highways. There was no action taken at this committee meeting. We adjourned at 3:40 p.m. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the Committee of the Whole report.
Thank you very much. Okay, then new business. Item 1. Okay. Okay, so there's no new business. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.